What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down some breaking news that just came out that ended up causing NIO to actually crash today. I know it's very unfortunate. I also know that I mentioned yesterday that NIO should have held up after the really good NIO day that we had. However, some new piece of news came out after I recorded the video. The news just came out this morning, and it caused NIO to take a big hit alongside other EVs out there. So I'm going to break down what this piece of news was, why this ended up having a very negative effect on NIO, and how this may affect NIO for tomorrow and as the days go on. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details about what this news was and how this may affect NIO, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire new community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any could be a free NIO or Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 6 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO is down 8% for the day, and I mentioned to everyone that I did actually expect NIO to hold up pretty well today. I didn't expect it to crash this hard because NIO was showing some nice relative strength. However, a new piece of news came out that I couldn't foresee. No one was able to foresee it, and this did cause NIO to take a bit of a hit. Now, one of the other things I want to mention is the fact that I mentioned in earlier videos that we did have a lot of gaps, and I mentioned that we could come down to fill these gaps, but I expected this to happen a little bit later, but it's already starting to happen. NIO's support level is around this $10 range. Below that, there's 9.7, 9.28, followed by $9 flat. So could NIO come down even lower? It is still very possible if bad news continue to come out. But let's actually break down what's happening in the markets first before I talk a little bit more about NIO. So the markets have a short week for the week. We only have 3 days left for the trading week. And right now the volume on SPY is relatively low. We were getting 100 million in volume last week, 79 million, 100 million, 59 million last Friday. Today we only got 47 million. So lots of people are on vacation, and this is obviously affecting the performance of the markets. Now, I still believe SPY has potential to get one last relief rally, a small amount of relief. I don't know if it's going to happen this week anymore, seeing the low volume, but I do believe in the very beginning of January, it is still possible for the market to push up just a little bit before the big crash happens as we approach mid-January. And it might be relatively similar to what we saw in SPY a little bit earlier. So looking at the daily chart, I know it's a little bit messy. I have a lot of lines, but don't worry about those. What matters is this right here. When the market crashed to start off 2022, notice how SPY actually came up around the 27th, traded sideways with low volume, and then once we hit January, we went from, let's see where we were. We basically went from about 466 to our high of 472 by the 4th of January before the big crash started. So we had one last amount of relief just to start off 2022 before a crash in January. And after that, the entire year basically saw this bear market. And it does look like it's going to continue going into 2023. Now, what else is interesting is SPY is only down 0.4%. The overall market is still a little bit different because the QQQ is down 1.4%. So tech is underperforming. The EVs are taking big hits. Apple's down 1.4%. They're taking the bigger hits while SPY is starting to hold up, which is a sign that institutions are not as confident in the market right now. They're not buying into tech. Tech is not leading the market holding up. Instead, the market is taking a hit, tech is taking a big hit, and SPY is kind of outperforming. So that's a bearish signal for the markets. And as I mentioned previously, I expect there to be a crash in January. I do believe there might be some temporary relief, maybe for the first few days of January, maybe for part of this week. But after that, like I said, the market will crash, unfortunately. So what's going on with NIO? Now I want to break down what the news was that came out and how this has been affecting NIO. NIO so far today, it has been underperforming. I expect the price price ratio to come down a little bit more. And also, we're seeing lots of selling pressure. NIO was getting some buy signals from lots of banks, which shows it is still a fundamentally strong company. And on Wednesdays, NIO is green about 55% of the time. I'm not as confident about us being green for tomorrow. It really depends on many factors. And on top of that, the very low short interest is a signal that you might see more shorting for NIO. So NIO will likely come down in the future. So be very careful with this. So what's going on with NIO? Why is NIO crashing the way it is? Well, NIO has cut their delivery expectations. This is not good news because during their last quarterly earnings report, William Lee Bin, the CEO, said, okay, expect 43 to 48,000 deliveries. He was confident we would get that. Now, NIO changed their number. Instead of 43 to 48,000, they're saying 39,000 vehicles is what they expect to produce and deliver. And this is also important to note that the virus is still spreading in China. It's affecting their supply chains. It's also affecting production. Tesla even halted one of their plants over there, the Giga Shanghai. Not good news for the EV sector. Tesla's underperforming. This is also having a negative effect on NIO. And seeing NIO just cut their expectations is not a good sign. So let's actually break down the numbers. Looking at NIO, all right, these were their monthly deliveries. For October, we got 10,000. For November, we got 14,000, which is actually their all-time high. They already have 24,000 deliveries so far for Q4, and we're just waiting on the December numbers. For them to get 39,000, they need to do at least 15,000 in deliveries for the month of December. Now, seeing that the EV sector is showing signs of lowering demand, especially in China, that's not a good sign for NIO, and we're starting to see their numbers being adjusted because of that news. So it's not the best of signs for NIO. Now, what we expected initially was for NIO to get 43 to 48,000 deliveries. Seeing that they have about, let's say it's about, I would say 24,000 so far from October, November, NIO was supposed to get 19 to 24,000 deliveries for just December alone. And now the expectation's only about 15,000. So a big expectations cut in deliveries, showing weakness in the EV sector, showing a lack of demand, showing that margins and many earnings are not going to be the best for these EV companies. Once again, guys, it's given the economic turmoil in China and all over the world and the change in demand for the car industry, which is affecting prices and also their buying. That's not a good sign for NIO. This is leading to lots of capitulation and concerns from investors, and that is why NIO started to come down. It's down 8%. That's also correlated with what's going on in Tesla, seeing another major EV company like Tesla, seeing their gigafactories being shut down amidst the virus that's spreading in China. Not a good sign whatsoever. So what do I expect for NIO? I think that NIO has a lot of demand around the high nines to about $10. So NIO is going to be testing this demand zone. That's around the $10 mark. Could we bounce? I mean, I don't expect us to bounce. I think we're just going to trade sideways, but there is a risk $10 might not hold us if we see more negative news catalysts. NIO could come down to 9.7, so be very careful, my fellow NIO investors and shareholders. Be very, very careful. I also want to note the fact that if I could find this, NIO has a lot of gaps down here. The next gap, we had one at around like 10.14. I think NIO just filled that one. NIO also once bounced off 9.67 to 9.7. So down here, I do think NIO could come down to this level. This is why I highlighted 9.7-ish. NIO could end up retesting that very soon. I do expect NIO to potentially retest that area. If it breaks that, then there's 9.28 followed by $9 flat. So we have to be very careful as NIO investors. I mean, there's likely going to be more downside. So please be very cautious and watch the news. There was also the situation involving Taiwan. As of right now, it didn't really escalate, so I'm not as worried about that for the time being. But like I said before, guys, NIO looks like it's going to retest $10, maybe break below that and see 9.7 or to 9.67. So watch that area very carefully. And with that said, I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. You guys are all very precious to me. I really appreciate everyone out there. So be ready for what's about to come. Unfortunately, NIO investors had bad news, as are many investors for different EV sectors and different EV stocks. The best we could do is remain calm, cool, and collected. Do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. I'm still very bullish for the long term. And thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, and peace out.